morning and afternoon, everyone. We're going to give about 30 more seconds for people to join us and get settled. Thank you all for being here with us today. All right, welcome. Good morning and afternoon. Welcome to the Plants Grant Sneak Peek webinar. Today, we're joined by Jennifer and Yvonne, who will provide live Spanish translation during the webinar. So before we continue, Jennifer will actually explain now how to access the interpretation room. We'll also put some instructions in the chat. So Jennifer, I'll pass it off to you. Jennifer, are you with us right now?
Buenos días, buenas tardes, here I am. Para escuchar a este webinario vamos a tener una interpretación simultánea en vivo, traducción en vivo. Para escuchar al webinario en español, por favor busquen en la barra inferior de tu pantalla de Zoom. Hay un globo terráqueo. Pueden hacer clic en el globo y escoger Spanish o español para escuchar al webinario en español. También están las instrucciones en el chat. Y por favor, si alguien me está escuchando, me pueden dar una señal que si escuchan, un pulgar o poner en el chat que si escuchan. Y si no, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'll give everyone a couple seconds to get to the right room. Again, we'll put instructions in the chat. Okay. Hopefully everyone is getting situated and we are going to kick it off. So welcome again, everyone, to the Plants Grant Sneak Peek webinar. My name is Lee Howe, and I'm the Plants Project Director for the Chef Ann Foundation. PLANTS stands for Partnerships for Local Agriculture and Nutrition Transformation in Schools, and we are so excited to share a preview of this new funding opportunity with you. I'm going to continue briefly with some accessibility options for the webinar. So first, if closed captioning would aid your learning today, please find the closed caption button on your Zoom toolbar. Click the up arrow, and on the menu that pops up, select Show Subtitle. If you would like to listen to today's webinar in Spanish, you might have already heard the instructions, but just in case, please find the interpretation button on your Zoom toolbar. Click the up arrow, and on the menu that pops up, select Spanish. Lastly, you may have questions that come up throughout the webinar today. Please submit your questions by finding the Q&A button, which is also on your Zoom toolbar. Click the button and you'll be prompted to type questions. We won't have time to respond to questions during today's webinar, but we'll collect all questions and include responses to them in the Q&A section of our Plants Grant webpage. All right. So the Chef Ann Foundation is honored to be one of 4 cooperative agreement holders for the USDA Food and Nutrition Services Healthy Meals Incentives Initiative, Part 2, which is focused on improving the nutritional quality of school meals through food system transformation. The Chef Ann Foundation was founded in 2009 by Chef Ann Cooper and is dedicated to promoting whole ingredient scratch cooking in schools. We believe that scratch cooking enables schools to serve the healthiest, tastiest meals so that kids are well-nourished and ready to learn. Our mission is to ensure that school food professionals have the resources, funding, and support that they need to provide fresh, healthy, delicious, scratch-cooked meals that support the health of children and our planet. We work with K-12 schools in all 50 states and some U.S. territories, and to date, we've helped more than 14,000 schools and 3.4 million kids eat healthier, fresher school meals. We also believe that schools play a critical role in building more resilient and equitable local food systems. Schools have the potential to leverage their food purchasing to become a powerful market for small to mid-size and historically underserved food producers and businesses in their region. In doing so, schools can also improve their meal quality, nutrition, and appeal for students. But as you all well know, getting to this point is hard work. Schools face increasingly complex supply chain, operational, infrastructural, and financial challenges. And likewise, regional producers and food businesses often face a daunting number of hurdles in order to access the school food marketplace. And this is where the Plants Grant and CAF's wonderful Plants Project team partners come in. We are so grateful to be working with 3 organizations to design and implement the Plants Grant. We've got Kitchen Sink Strategies Collaborative, the National Farm to School Network, and the Gretchen Swanson Center for Nutrition. I'll pass it off to them now to introduce themselves, provide an overview of their organization, role, and to share a bit about why they're excited to take part in this initiative. So Elliot, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Lee. So great to see everybody here. Thanks for being here. The Kitchen Sink Strategies Collaborative, as Lee started to say, is this really exciting new venture that's bringing together actually 3 companies with deep roots supporting farm to school and farm to institution work nationwide. The collaborative consists of kitchen sink strategies, supply chain, and shared plate strategies, each coming together to bring our enthusiasm and expertise to the Plants Grant recipients. We all bring years of experience working really closely with a broad range of folks in the food system, from small BIPOC producers to regional food hub networks to some of the largest and smallest school food authorities in the US. And we will be here throughout the multi-year grant to support grantees as primary technical assistance providers. And we plan to support you with things like production planning for producers who are trying to scale, or developing sales strategies for food hubs that might want to work with school districts in their region, or things like developing new value-added products with local ingredients, local food purchase planning for schools, or food procurement with small-scale BIPOC producers, just as some examples. We're all huge believers in the power of collaboration in building the resilient food economies we know we need. And we are super thrilled about what this Plants Grant asks for grantees to work in close partnership, particularly with each other, because we know that those strong relationships across the value chain are exactly what we need to create these healthier, fairer, and more nourishing school food environments. So we're really excited to be here and to bring our experience to the Plants Grant recipients and help drive the systems change that we know is key for that future vision of healthier school food environments in all your regions.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Carpenter, and I am the Associate Director at the Gretchen Swanson Center for Nutrition. We are a nonprofit research center. We were founded in 1973, and we're headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska. We work nationally to provide partnership and expertise in measurement and evaluation to help to develop, enhance, and expand programs that are focused on the promotion of healthy eating, active living, food and nutrition security, and local food systems. We bring expertise in public health nutrition and mixed methods evaluation approaches, and our team is dedicated to building measurement strategies to assess the impact of innovative health-related programs like plants. For this grant, we will lead the design and implementation of the evaluation of each grantee project, as well as conduct an overarching evaluation of the initiative as a whole. We are very proud to be part of the Plants team and excited for the opportunity to learn from all of the grantees. We're looking forward to bringing our expertise in the evaluation of complex and multi-stakeholder initiatives to this project to help tell a story about the importance and best practices related to this work. Based on other national evaluations that we've conducted on projects within the school food environment, we understand that a concentrated effort to focus on opportunities within the local food system are key to advancing procurement of fresh, whole ingredients and promoting a scratch cooking model. I'll hand it over to David.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, everyone. I am David Kudobart. I am the Partnerships Director at National Farm to School Network, or NFSN. And a little bit about NFSN. We work across the country as an information, advocacy, and networking hub for communities working to bring local food sourcing and food and agriculture education into food systems and early care and education environments. Our mission is to increase access to local food and nutrition education to improve children's health, strengthen family farms, and cultivate vibrant communities. We like to say farm to school is a triple win, supporting kids, farms, and communities. For plants, NFSN will create a local purchasing community of practice for the awardees of this grant for peer-to-peer learning. The COP, the community of practice, will provide grantees with skill building training, including exposure to new strategies for local procurement, innovations in nutrition and agriculture education, and other farm to school activities. The COP offers a unique space for peer-to-peer learning, allowing for collaborative problem solving, sharing of best practices, and support for one another. Grantees will also be integrated into NFSN's ongoing network operations, providing access to NFSN peer networking and resources, opportunities to engage in other NFSN programming, webinars, and events. And we're excited to be part of this initiative because it's a chance for people and communities to get funding for work they're doing, supporting and strengthening their communities through food. That's a little bit about NFSN. Before diving into some of the details of the Plants Grant, we want to name some of the values that are guiding our project team as we build this funding opportunity and think about the type of projects we want to support. So first, our first value, we want to support projects that have a system-based approach to food system transformation. While this funding opportunity is time-bound, we will give preference to projects that take a systemic approach in order to sustain activities beyond the grant period and have a long-lasting impact into the future. We're not interested in funding one-off interventions. In this vein, our second value, we also want to support the development of strong local partnerships. Relationships and trust building are an essential piece of value chain coordination. As such, we aim to fund partners that have a history of collaboration and established networks or new partnerships that aim to build a stronger, more resilient network. And ultimately, we're in this together. So we, the Plants project team, strive to be as responsive and adaptable as possible through this process, learn from one another, and to grow our larger networks along the way. 3, we're also centering equity in all parts of the Plants process. We continuously ask ourselves how equity is being taken into account in our timelines, outreach, communications, application, and review process. We are also preferencing projects that intentionally serve diverse populations, engage impacted community members, that include SFAs with CEP or are tribally controlled, as well as projects that have an impact on historically underserved food producers and businesses. And fourth value, we also value transparency. We want to be transparent with you during each step of the application process, including in our scoring criteria. We also hope for transparency in return from grantees. We are here to support each grantee in achieving their project goals and strive for open and honest communication along the way. We also hold transparency as value in our food system. We believe that the public has a right to know where our food comes from, how it was produced, and access supply chain data in order to help us all make informed choices. And with that, I'll pass it back to Leah.
All right, Plants will fund proposals that align with the objectives that you see here on the slide. So building and strengthening relationships among community-based school food system stakeholders, such as school food professionals, local farmers, distributors, aggregators, parents, students, and other organizations and populations who are impacted by school food supply chain. Also improving the school food supply chain coordination to support the shared values and needs of local farmers and other food producers, as well as K-12 schools. Expanding scratch cooking operations in K-12 schools to both provide more nourishing, high quality, and culturally inclusive meals to students, as well as incorporate more local and sustainably produced ingredients into meals. Increasing awareness of and access to K-12 markets among small and mid-scale and historically underserved food producers, aggregators, and processors. And lastly, establishing a sustainable approach and best practices for improvement of the K-12 food system that are easily scalable and adoptable by other organizations. And there will be plenty of more details about the Plants Grant objectives and expectations in our request for application, also known as an RFA, which will be published on November the 27th. Now we'll get into some other key pieces of the Plants grant. Using a competitive process, we will award grants between $500,000 and $600,000 to 8 local projects. This grant does not require grantees to match funding, and the grant period will be about 3 years and kick off early next spring. The funding opportunity is national in scope, and applicants must be based in the contiguous United States, Hawaii, Alaska, District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, or the US Virgin Islands. All right, Elliot, over to you.
Thanks, Leah. So here are some top-line eligibility requirements for the grant that we're talking about here. Projects, as you picked up, Shirley, must be administered collaboratively here. We're big on partnerships. Specifically, there need to be at least 3 local partners per application, one of whom must serve as the lead partner, and a maximum of 5 partners can be named on the application. So groups of partners have to also include at least 1 school food authority. And other partners can include food producers, businesses like farms, ranches, seafood businesses, processors, food manufacturers, and or other suppliers like distributors and food hubs, cooperative extension, groups like local government agencies, and or food systems and food support nonprofit organizations. It's important to note that the lead partner must have a demonstrated history of building a nutritious school food program and or developing strong local food systems that serve K-12 schools. So that lead partner is going to be responsible for all the fun stuff like coordinating all the grant activities and reporting requirements. And because the grant's so clearly focused on partnerships, all partners must be located within 250 miles of the lead partner. And preference in the application will be given to applicants who, as you heard, propose partnerships formed with historically underserved farm or food businesses, school food authorities with the Community Eligibility Provision, CEP, or that are operated under the Bureau of Indian Education, and partnerships that demonstrate a history of collaboration and or achieving the objectives they set out to accomplish. So again, be sure to thoroughly review the eligibility section once the RFA is released. And now let's talk about the content of the technical assistance that you'll receive as part of the grant. So you heard a little bit earlier, the grants project team here will be charged with providing grantees with the tools, training, and resources necessary to achieve their project goals. And all 4 of our organizations are going to provide in-depth, individualized technical assistance that's going to take place both virtually and in person throughout the grant period. Each project team will undergo an initial assessment to determine the types of training and technical assistance necessary to achieve their respective objectives. And one very important and exciting clarification is that technical assistance from Chef Ann Foundation and Plants Project partner organizations will be provided at no cost to the grantees. It's part of the process. That said, grantees are expected to budget the appropriate staff time for those in-person and virtual technical assistance and evaluation support activities. So what does this stuff look like? On the ground, we're going to drop some links in the chat here that will share some examples, just a few, of cross-sector collaborations that are like the ones we're looking for in successful Plants grant applications. And these are just some examples. By no means are we limiting these types of collaborations in showing this to you all here. We don't mean to lead the witness, but just a few examples. The Montana Beef to School project is a collaboration between beef producers and processors, school food authorities, higher education institutions, community-based nonprofits, students, and other stakeholders who are part of the Montana Beef to School Coalition. And they've been working for years to increase the use of local beef in school food operations across that state. So that's one example. The Good Food Buffalo Coalition, another example, is working to advance values-based procurement initiatives in close partnership with Buffalo Public Schools and the New York State BIPOC Growers Support Collective, as well as students, caregivers, local producers, and community members. You sense the theme of partnerships by now. And last but not least, the Spork Food Hub, the development of the Food Hub is a collaboration between Fiery Ginger Farm, the producer, a few school partners in Northern California, and the California Department of Food and Agriculture's Farm to School Incubator Grant Program. So feel free to check out the links we just dropped in the chat to see a little bit more about examples of those collaborations in action. And I'll throw it back to you, Lee, to bring us home.
Thanks, Elliot. All right, hold on. Let's click here. Yeah, so putting all this information together, CAF and the Plants Grant project team will provide in-depth and individualized training and technical assistance to partnerships that are actively collaborating to build resilient and equitable local food supply chains in order to increase the availability of and access to nutritious and scratch-cooked food in K-12 schools. Hopefully this slide sums that up. And yeah, so what's on the horizon? We have some important application dates we want you to be mindful of. You are obviously in our sneak peek webinar as we speak, and we just strongly encourage you to submit your questions now and over the next couple of weeks to plants@chefandfoundation.org. We're building out an FAQ on the Plants webpage, so keep your questions coming. The Plants request for applications will be released Monday, November 27th, and will be followed by our launch webinar 2 days later on November 29th. So that will be a deep dive into sort of the application process and some nitty-gritty details about the Plants Grant. The application deadline is January 22nd, 2024. So you have 8 weeks total to get your application in. And grant awards will be announced March 18th, 2024, and the grant period of performance will kick off April 1st, 2024, and run through June 30th, 2027. So as you think about applying for the Plants Grant, here are some things to be mindful of as you prepare for your application. As you've now heard described many times throughout the webinar, this opportunity is heavily focused on partnerships and network development. So start thinking right away about some of the applicant eligibility requirements we laid out earlier in the webinar, as well as the partners that you want to apply for this opportunity with. We'll require either a memorandum of understanding from all partners or a letter of commitment from each project partner. The application will require a project narrative focused on your purpose, goals, and intended impact, including any barriers and opportunities to achieving those goals. So we'll want to hear about how your project approaches long-term sustainability and advances food system equity. Applicants will also need to submit a budget that includes things like staff time, supplies, and travel necessary to meet the goals and activities that you've laid out in your project plan. And for this, note that if your organization has a negotiated indirect cost rate agreement, also known as a NICRA, you can use that rate. Otherwise, awards are capped at a 10% indirect rate. So we encourage you to use that in your budget. We'll also require a budget narrative, which is essentially a description of and justifications for the items in your budget. And other than that, we strongly encourage you to read the entire RFA when it's released before beginning your application. Please pay special attention to the plant scoring criteria to ensure that you're addressing each of the criteria that we'll be using in our review process. And before we close, I just wanted to give a heads up that there will be a very short survey that's going to pop up when you exit the webinar. We'd love to hear from each of you that have joined us today. I've included the questions that we'll be asking on the slide, but please respond via the survey so that we can collect all your feedback in one place. It really shouldn't take more than 2-3 minutes tops, and we really appreciate you taking the time. And so thank you again for kicking off your week with us. As we mentioned earlier, we've recorded all questions received in the chat during the webinar, and we'll provide responses in the FAQ section of our Plants Grant webpage, which, as you can see on the slide, is plantsgrant.org. Keep the questions coming. We'd love the opportunity to address as many of them as possible before the application launches, again, on November 27th. Our Plants email address, which you can see on the slide, is plants@chefandfoundation.org. Thank you again. We really appreciate you all taking the time, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you all so much.